You're a SaaS founder, you've built something solid, but growth still feels harder than it should. Most SaaS companies don't fail because of bad tech. They fail because they've never become a must-have to the right customer. This podcast is here to change that. I'm Ton Dobbe, and this is the Remarkable SaaS Podcast. Every week I talk to founders in the trenches, facing friction, making bold moves, and building companies that last. We dig into real choices around focus, positioning, customer pool, team alignment, the things that separate forgettable software from the ones that people can't live without. No hype, no hacks. Just honest conversations to help you build something that people would miss if it was gone. If your SaaS should be indispensable but isn't yet, this is your podcast. Let's get into it. The guest on the podcast this week is Louis Hoch, CEO at Usio.
What you think you're going to be when you start a software company and what you end up being are often different. And the companies that are successful understand that. The companies that fail try to maintain their focus on what their original product or service is.
This is Louis. He raised 50 million, while rivals raised 200 million, but he still beat them. We dig into how he said no to entire customer segments by design, and what that quiet choice meant when COVID hit, and competitors lost 80% of their revenue overnight. The conversation gets to something most founders don't want to hear: why staying faithful to your original idea might be the most dangerous thing you can do. Well, hi, Louis. Thank you for making the time available today and being the guest on the podcast.
No, thanks so much for having me.
It's a pleasure for a number of reasons. One of it because I'm from the ERP world, and payments was, of course, a thing that we did, but then in a completely different setting, I guess. But I mean, I've been impressed with the story that you've been building since 1998, and hence, yeah. I was looking forward to this call. Before we start talking about your company, which is called Usio today, what drives you? What gives you energy as an entrepreneur?
Well, trying to create value, and value creation is not necessarily just for our shareholders, but creating value for our employees and our customers. And the easiest way to create value is through innovation. And so I try to make sure that our culture fosters creativity, so that we can be in a position to actually be innovators.
I like that one. Creativity. I got a question on that later on. But I mean, talking about it, you said shareholders, employees, and customers. Which one is at the end? If everything disappears, which one is first for you?
I think they're all kind of integral. In fact, maybe we should just put that all into a group called stakeholders, and
Yeah,
and and
true.
know that when I wake up every day, you know, my actions, the company's actions affect more than just me and the employees. They affect
True.
a big group of stakeholders, and
Yeah.
so it's an important group. I think one is not more important than the other, but
But which one
you know,
drives the other?
so well, obviously, you know, the employees drive the value creation. They're the ones that innovate. The company tries to create a culture or an environment where the employees have the ability to innovate and feel comfortable enough about what they're doing and to share their ideas and have a creative environment, which obviously, is very important for developers and technical people to feel comfortable about sharing ideas and you know to foster that creativity.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, fantastic bridge to what the company then does. For my own research, you founded a company called BillServe in '98. became the market leader there, and then sold it off to Amex, and then started a new company, which is now Usio. So that's about, what is it? It's almost 30 years down the road, and a lot of energy and a lot of wisdom, wiser, I would say. But they're both in the same arena of technology and value for customers. What was a problem that you saw back then that needed to be solved?
Well, when we founded BillServe in 1998, a long time ago. I mean, that was a dot-com rush, right?
Exactly.
But what we knew was people were going to stop paying paper bills.
Yeah, true.
You know, back in that time frame, the majority of bills were still being paid by, the bill payer sitting down at the kitchen table and had checkbook and opened up each envelope. Maybe they did it twice a month, the first of the month, 15th of the month. Maybe they had a notebook that said, yeah, they paid their electricity, and that's how they kept track of everything. And then they had, their stamps. They put the stamps on the envelope. We knew that was going to go away. I mean,
Yeah,
in 1998, the internet had been around for a little bit, uh, but there really wasn't much electronic bill presentment during that time frame.
yeah, true.
Turns out we were right, and
Or sort of.
and yeah, and everybody this week will probably pay a bill online. Our focus was being able to deliver a bill wherever you were at. So it was either at your banking site or a biller direct site. And our technology was rich enough that we garnered about 18% of the whole market,
Yeah.
and the market being total bills in the population. So we had customers like AT&T to exclusive agreement. We had almost every major utility, oil and gas companies, Texaco, Chevron, Valero, you name it. It was Sally Mae, the student loan organization. Um, and you add all those bills together, that was 18% of the market.
Wow.
So,
Yeah. 80% of the market. So the market leader, as far as I understand. One thing you told me before we started this is that in that period you raised approximately 50 million, and your competitors were raising a multifold of that. Yet you still were the market leader and actually outgrowing them. What was the secret there?
I'd love to say it was because we had a good looking CEO, but I mean, it was all about the value that we were creating. I mean, other providers attacked it a little differently. They believed that one channel would win over the other channel. In other words, biller direct model would win over, back then we called it aggregation model, which is having all your bills in one place at your bank. We realized early on, and it's a philosophy that we still continue today, is that diversity was important and letting the consumer make the choice. You don't tell the customer what they need. You put the customer in a position that allows their consumer to make the choices of what's best for them. And so, because of that, having, independence when it came to where you pay your bill, we were able to gather a lot of market share.
I can understand that. Yeah, that choice is incredible at the end. Um, because it is about choice. And that's what people value at the end, which is where, yeah, the value comes back to you again, which is one example. So then sell the company off to Amex, start a new company, and you decide to not focus on the presentment of the bill, but actually the payment side of it. Why was that?
At Bill Serve, our focus was the presentment of the bill. But we also had to facilitate the payment, and back then, we didn't really value the payment as much as we do today. It was more about the presentment. But as we grew at BillServe, we became payment experts. out of, out of necessity, right? We were
Uh-huh.
moving hundreds of millions of dollars a month. And so when we retooled, we were retooling to become at the time with the goal of being the leader of in ACH processing. And so that's where our initial focus was in payments. Today, you know, proud to say if we were a bank, we'd be the 50th largest bank in the United States, just based upon the volume of ACH that we process through the Federal Reserve in a given year.
Just for my the notion of people listening, can you explain what HCH is?
Yeah, so ACH is a direct debit or a credit off your checking or savings account. It is typically, you know, batch oriented. It is also the most economical payment method or payment channel there is out there today.
Yeah. I mean, coming from the ERP world, and funny enough, I mean, when I started at Unit 4, and that was 92, so that's a long time ago, the first demo that I did was actually a demo together with ABN AMRO, talking about electronic banking. So what of course in Europe has been around for a while is that the whole standard per, well, initially per country, but later on also for at Europe, for example, around SEPA, which again helps from an ERP system to batch invoices for payment, and then go that direction. Is that model working? Well, actually, it's for if you talk about consumers, then that's the way to go. For businesses, there is um, a different playground there, right? Or is your company also focused on B2B?
Yeah, no, we have everything.
Yeah.
So our customer base is primarily businesses and governments, and you know, we have 200 cities, states, counties that we process for one way or the other.
Yeah.
We have major corporations, Verizon and T-Mobile and uh, Spectrum, which is Charter Communications, major utilities, top four drug companies, manufacturers. I
Yeah.
mean, our customer base, and then we have a lot of fintechs. You know, we're the engine behind fintechs,
Yeah. That's what I think. Yeah.
so much so that some fintechs business can't exist without our technology. I mean, their business model is impossible to execute unless they leverage, you know, our tech stack for, you know, payments.
I can understand that one because yeah, what do you do without payments, right? Um, so in this whole ball game of starting the new company, retooling, focusing on payments, and of course I know it's a long time ago, but has there been a particular thing that you, if you look in hindsight, did so well that it becomes sort of the success factor for where you are today?
You know, one of the things that we believed early on was that consumers should be able to choose how they want to pay or how they want to get paid. And the flip side of that is we should be able to give the tools to the businesses that are our customers to create that environment for consumers to choose. And over the years, we've got to that point. Early on, you know, we added our first payment channels, ACH, but we always had the vision that we wanted to have all payment channels. And today we have all payment channels in our tech stack, you know, and that's been very important. And you know, we can talk about tons of examples why, but um, it's not only a competitive advantage, but we're creating so much value for our customers, which a lot of time are software companies, that it becomes very sticky relationship.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, true. Especially when it becomes when it's when it's the engine that's underpinning the business. Now you talked about competition. You talk about payments. I mean, I know some other areas like payroll and another areas. They're not particularly sexy areas. Um, but competitive differentiation, of course, is a very key thing. What has been the hardest nut to crack when it comes to, first of all, building differentiation, and then later on, of course, also keeping it, because technology is always evolving.
Yeah, some of the hardest hurdles that we've had over the years, luckily we're way past, but
Yeah,
when you're handling other people's money, there's a, a lot of regulatory concerns.
yeah, true.
There's tons of rules, card association rules, Federal Reserve rules, slash NACHA. I mean, you know, focusing on risk compliance and regulatory control is crucial in the payments business. And, you know, part of being accepted into that space at the level or that industry at the level we need it to be required us to grow financially. And it was almost like we needed one to get the other. And it was a chicken egg type of thing. So
Yeah,
we had to demonstrate early on when we were smaller that we were committed to following the rules and laws and that even though we were small, we had the processes in place. And it was a selling job. I mean, it was true that we were focused on it, but it was still a selling job. And it's also one of the biggest hurdles that people have today to try to enter the market is that they may have a great idea, but they don't have any financial wherewithal to
true.
accomplish it. And that, banks and card associations just they don't have time, for somebody like that.
Yeah,
So that was one of our biggest pain points as we grew.
hmm,
And today we're known as a company that is highly focused on regulatory control. In fact, we actually have a certification for the regulator for NACHA, which we were the first one to have it. And there's only two companies that are actually certified that are payment processors. So, so we have the
yeah,
badge of honor. So
yeah. Now, I mean, I hear you. If I look at my own experience in the software space, certain things are sort of what I call table stakes. You have to have it in order for yeah, to be even relevant in the market. And I was always counting regulatory and compliance and these type of things as part of it, like security. It needs to be secure. It needs to be able to scale in a certain way for certain companies. So it's almost like if you don't have it, it becomes a knockout criteria rather than a differentiator. But is that different in this industry?
well, if you don't have those
Yeah,
items,
exactly.
then you're not going to participate.
Exactly.
You can participate as a sales engine, but you're not going to be participating, at software technology level.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, I assume that you don't have two competitors here, like the two that have that certification. You have many, many more. Um, so what? Well, I mean, what I also saw from my own research is that I mean, one Stripe is one of your competitors, but you're sort of seen as the anti-Stripe because you've got different values in terms of what you focus on for customers. One of the thing being that relationship matters. Isn't that part of the differentiation then?
Yeah, definitely. There's some things in business that shouldn't be a competitive advantage, like
True.
taking care of your customer and picking up the phone and treating your customers like money, like it's your money. Um, in our industry, those things are competitive advantages for us.
Exactly.
We have, a team that are focused on the relationship with our software or integrated software vendors, and they know that their customer base to us is just like our customer base.
Yeah.
And, so we love Stripe. I mean, Stripe's technology is amazing. And we love them also because they keep the prices high in the industry. And so we don't have any problem, providing a discount off of that. We're very excited about their IPO, and we think that that'll increased valuations in the industry. Um, but one of the things we also like about them is that they're hard to get a hold of. And it's just as simple as that. And
Yeah.
so they end up educating, you know, customers for us, our future customers, about the value of payments. And then once their volume gets to a certain level, they often look for an alternative and then they find us.
Isn't that isn't it interesting? Because I also think that I'm not sure when Stripe was founded, but it wasn't 2003. I think it was beyond that. So you were already there, and now there's a competitor actually, sort of educating the market for you. But talking about this IPO from Stripe, you did the IPO way earlier, and I know, I've been in part of a company that IPO'd as well. What was the core reason for Usio to IPO? Why not go another direction to get the funding?
Well, you know, it was different times.
Okay.
And, in 1998, it was the dot-com rush.
Yeah.
And, there was a lot of companies raising a lot of money by going public initially. We went public from the start before we even had a customer.
Oh, really?
Yes. And, back then, there were no SPACs, but the equivalent of a SPAC today is a reverse merger. So we found a public shell and we reverse merged into them, and then we raised capital. It turned out it was strategic during that time frame. It gave
Yeah.
us credibility, being on, and then Nasdaq, and our you had no clue if our customers had a balance sheet to protect your accounts. But with us, you did. You got to see everything because we were public.
Yeah.
So, these utilities, government agencies, major corporations, that was a big check mark for us.
Can imagine. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's the moment you're part of Nasdaq or any other big stock exchange, you have to present figures every quarter, which is full transparency, and that can mean a lot also in terms of the credibility that you have. Um, Going into the direction of like scaling the business, because I mean, just said there's billions of money flowing through Usio every single month. From my understanding is that you're currently at around is it 89, 90 million of revenue. The other understanding is that it's just with about 80 people. Is that correct?
We have 107
Oh,
today.
okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
100.
LinkedIn is giving me some information, and possibly that's a little bit off, but still, if you
Yeah.
do that numbering, that's an incredible number per employee in terms of the revenue that actually goes through the company. And that's what I found about you. You're always trying to kind of grow revenue, recurring revenue. EBITDA margin, of course, is very important, being a listed company. But the other thing that I found is that you are a big advocate of creating operating leverage. Can you talk about it a little bit? Like, what do you focus on to create operating leverage? Because it's a big one that a lot of companies, I think, forget.
Yeah, well, I'm going to give you two answers here. First, we're really proud of the revenue per sales, right?
Yeah,
It's 700, almost $800,000 per headcount. And we're a company that's always found a way to do a lot with a little, and
yeah,
and continue to innovate. And that speaks well about our culture and our employees, and their commitment, and just knowing that for that to happen, the employees have to come to work and have fun, be excited about what they're doing. And so, our employees do whatever it takes to get the job done. Um, and when it comes to operating leverage, every fintech payment processor has to have that as a goal if they want to scale.
yeah,
And, and so we have reached the point where we can, double, even triple the size of our processing volume, with just maybe we add a couple account reps, right?
sure.
And it's because we've architected our technology in a way that it scales and making sure that we've built in redundant systems, when things do, go down, that our customers aren't affected. All right.
Yeah.
So when it comes to what that means to us financially is that we should be seeing our EBITDA margins expand. And we have a goal of getting to 10% pretty quick. And we're not there yet, but hopefully it happens very soon.
Yeah, because that's what the stock market is looking for, that particular number. Yeah. And it's,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's a goal, and we need a little bit of helping hand from the industry, and that's why we're excited about Stripe's, IPO if they ever do it. I
uh-huh.
mean, but
But why is that important? What is that going to do to the perception in the market then?
well, if Stripe gets valued at the type of multiples that the market should value them at, it should bring attention back to payment processors, and then hopefully even a higher valuation to companies like ours that are a fintech payment processor. That a company that these fintechs can't exist without.
Yeah.
And a true embedded payment provider versus just a payment processor. So.
Yeah, exactly. And you would expect well, from a stock market perspective, that is a really safe stock to invest in because it is not bound to the typical ups and downs in the market. People always have to pay small bills, large bills. It always goes on. If it's bad, it's you still need to pay bills. Um, isn't that something that the market sees already then?
Well, the best example of that in recent times was COVID.
Yeah, that's true.
And the payment processors were affected in a big way. We had competitors that were down as much as 80% top line because they had too much reliance on restaurants and hotels and airlines and
True.
car
Yeah, yeah,
rentals, right? All those industries that shut down during COVID. Um, we were one of the few payment processors that actually grew revenue in COVID.
yeah,
And it was because we had so much government processing. It was two factors that we were distributing so much funds uh, on behalf of the governments, cities and states. I mean, for example, the COVID incentives just out of the city of New York was $100 million in distributions for us.
yeah,
But the other thing that is very important, we do our best to stay out of retail, and so you won't see us in a restaurant. You won't see us in a hotel, and it's by design because we don't want the macro events to affect us.
yeah. True.
And and right now, our industry is kind of feeling it because of the uncertainty uh, that people are feeling.
Yeah,
But we're not. Yet
yeah,
macro events do affect payment processors. We're positioned in a way that they really don't affect us. In fact, if it's something, COVID or high interest rates or maybe unemployment, we're actually going to benefit from that because we're so much into the government sector and we don't have retail. We don't have the discretionary spending. I mean, we
yeah.
have healthcare and taxes and utilities and, a lot of disbursements, money going out.
Let me make a small interruption here. Louis just illustrated something that most founders only see one side of. Segmentation is like a coin. One side is the hell yes, the customers with characteristics you go all in for. But the other side is just as important, the hell no. Customers with characteristics that make you vulnerable. You exclude them permanently, not reluctantly. And this is by design. It's your shield. Most founders define only what they go after, often loosely, and never flip the coin. Louis slipped it early, and when COVID hit and rivals lost 80% of their revenue, his shield held. And this is what remarkable software companies do. They acknowledge they cannot please everyone. And then they aim to be different, not just better. Want to master these traits as well? Simply read my book. I've made the electronic version available for free. Just visit theremarkableeffect.com to grab your copy, and inspiration will spark within 10 minutes. Back to the interview.
Which obviously increases during time.
Yeah, almost like mission critical infrastructure. It actually it links very well to my book, The Remarkable Effect. Trait number one is about acknowledge that you cannot please everyone. And you just said, it's deliberate. It's by design that we are staying out of these type of industries, even though you could possibly help them very well. But it's a choice. You say no, and that's that allows you to become even better at the end for the other industries that obviously have found you well. Any anecdote around that notion of acknowledging that you cannot please everyone? Is that living in your company?
Well, I guess you can answer it two ways. First is we have the infrastructure to please everyone. That's part of our strategy, right? We want the consumers to be able to choose how to get paid or how to pay.
Yeah.
So we like to enable our software partners, our ISVs, to actually make that choice for themselves. And that's a big part of embedded payments, is that software companies, these integrated software vendors, they know their customer base. We don't know their customer base. So we give them the tools to integrate and embed payments in a manner that is most pleasing to their customer base. Now, when it comes to our sales activities, who do we try to call up daily and, who are we marketing to? Yeah, we know we don't provide any value in retail. A physical terminal out there on the street, there's not much magic in that. And so it's very competitive. And then if you tie on that it's susceptible to macro events, it just wasn't a market that we wanted to play in. But we do believe in diversity in payment channels and
True.
helping our software companies
No,
deliver
but
what's
yeah, exactly. That's also what I'm saying here. You deliberately made a couple of choices, and because you made those choices, now you can actually offer them, which is trait number two, offer them something valuable and desirable. Because the desirability in this case that you added channels that others don't have. So for the right type of customers, the ones that are not affected by massive, more mega events, you have something that others cannot. And I think that's also the whole part of about differentiating and not trying to be better. Correct?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, we knew, hey, retail's not for us, and we stayed out of it, and we can power it. We have everything, you know, to be in that market. We have
Yeah.
chosen not to.
Looking at the time, I've got one or two more questions. Looking for an answer for you. Um, of all the obstacles that you had to overcome in order to scale the company to where it is right now, and I mean, you just heard 104 people doing about 90 million in revenue. That is true scale. Which part of it have you been most proud of in terms of what scaled best?
You know, well, what I'm most proud of when I come to work is our employees,
Hmm.
and how they adapt and innovate, and you know, it's their ability to manage through ambiguity, that's created, not only from our industry, but from our customer base. And, so our employee base is absolutely what I'm most proud of. Our, our products and services, um, they're not as important to me as the employee base. And, you know, as long as we have that great employee base, we can continue to evolve and innovate and and create value.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned a couple of very important things that you already in the beginning you talked about the creativity side of it, um, which is, I mean, I think it ties to trait number four in my book. Remarkable software companies master the art of curiosity. And if people have that mindset of asking questions and being curious, then the creativity, they'll start to see things. And the other thing that you mentioned is the ambiguity. It's not only like payment is payment and this is what we do. If they also have the ability to look beyond and see problems that you can solve in that ball game, that's a huge asset. How do you ensure then that the people that come to you all have that, yeah, all bring that mindset to work? Because some people just don't, and sometimes it's also like, yeah, well, the people in the top, I mean, let them come up with the ideas and we just execute on it. But I think what I hear is that the whole organization just lives it. Is that correct?
Well, first thing is not everybody has that ability.
Okay,
And as a leader, we recognize that every employee is different, right?
true.
They come to work for different reasons. But, you know, as a team, though, our teams all have that mastery. And, you know, one of the things that we look for is, for people to have the ability to make a decision and make it quick, and understanding that sometimes their decisions may not be the right one, but
True.
not having the fear to make that decision and coming back and correcting themselves if they're wrong. And so at the team level, we do our best to foster creativity because we understand that creativity leads to innovation, and you can never get to innovation without it. And
True.
so it's at the team level, and in its environment. And we've recognized, people try to do the work at home thing, companies, and we tried to stay away from that because what we were worried about was the creativity lacking. I mean, we still
Good
trusted our
point.
employees to do their jobs when they're at home, right? And we did a great job during COVID. Obviously, we grew revenues during that time frame,
Yeah.
but we wanted people back together in an environment where they can exchange ideas real time. And I think that's been a key to our success.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think you're completely right to have it on the team level because not everybody is the same, but it's the diversity of the team that bring things to new heights. You mentioned the word innovation, by the way, a couple of times. What is your definition of innovation?
You know, it can happen many different ways,
Yeah,
right? And it's more than just being different. It's evolution that's creating a lot of value, and often value that's been unmined before, right?
yeah,
And obviously, we're trying to work through that daily. And, one of the great innovations that we're working on right now has to do with biometric payments and tying biometric payments through artificial intelligence. And, we've done some really cool things on there. But, if your eyes, your retina has about 28,000 unique points, right?
yeah,
And your thumb has 38, right? Very little. And then when you scan your phone, that's 14. So your retina is the best part. So everybody's retina has already been scanned. It's not like you have to permission, have to go to somewhere to get it scanned. If you've been in an arena or a public space, there's already a token out there of your retina, and they're following that retina, right? There's data
yeah,
being
true.
created. They know where that retina has been, you know, and at some point you're voluntarily going to attach that retina to who you are. There's
Yeah,
going to be another matching token. So our vision is, and we've already done this. We haven't seen any revenue yet from it, but is to tie that retina token to a payment wallet. And the payment wallet is what you control.
Yeah,
And you
exactly.
can put your American Express in there, your debit card. Maybe you have a discount program like Rakuten in there. And our vision is to use AI to tie the both together to make the best purchasing decisions for you on your everyday purchases.
Wow.
So if you're going to go buy a refrigerator, you're going to know, hey, I can buy this refrigerator at, 5 different retailers. You're going to spend time doing your research. What is the best? Who has a coupon? All these different things. Does my American Express have an offer back? That I need to go check. And you do that for major purchases, and most people do. But for everyday purchases, people don't do that.
Exactly. Yeah, true.
So our vision is it's quite simply you're going to be able to walk into a store, uh, pick up 3 or 4 items, and walk out. And that we're going to figure out the best way to pay for each one of those items. And maybe you have offers that on your American Express card that would apply, but you haven't checked it, right? You
True.
haven't gone in there and manually said, hey, give me that offer. We'll do that for you. And then
Yeah.
that will continue to evolve, based upon all consumers' experiences. And
That's
we'll also use
fascinating.
that retina for events, so that it becomes your ticket to get into an event. And while you're at that event, you're transacting payments. And the beauty of that is we could do that on our network, right? Every transaction is on us. So
Exactly. That's where the network and the scale of that becomes a thing again. Wow, that's fascinating to follow. See how that evolves. Last question then. Out of all your experience now, being an entrepreneur since '98, um, you learn a lot of things. But for people that are listening, also to kind of aspire to have an entrepreneurial journey like you've had yourself, what is a do and what is a don't that you'd like to share with them?
you know, what I tell people is that what you think you're going to be when you start a software company and what you end up being are often different. And the companies that are successful understand that. The companies that fail try to maintain their focus on what their original product or service is. The market or industries in general are great at telling you, where you're being successful and where you're not being successful. And if you listen to that and you're able to evolve and innovate, you're going to be successful. But if you continue to go down your business plan and thinking your business plan is perfect or your product's perfect, you just burn through, $10 million of VC funding. So
Exactly. Yeah. So that's a do, do evolve. And what is a don't?
well, the don't is the opposite, right?
Like, yeah,
It's
of
it's
course.
I mean, it's a do and a don't. It's like, you know, but I mean, the big message there is keep an open mind when you're founding a software company. What is driving you today? If you keep open mind and you want to be successful, it can be completely different at the end of the day.
Yeah, true.
So,
Yeah. So yeah, it's about just starting and seeing it evolve. Yeah, that open mindset is a crazy important one. Thank you so much for sharing all the wisdom. Where can people go to find out more about Usio or to say hi to you?
yeah. So, our website is usio.com, and my email address is louis.hoch, Hoch at usio.com.
Thanks for sharing that. It was a pleasure, hearing about the journey. Inspiring to see what's happening in the payment space. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure. And this wraps up my conversation with Louis Hoch, CEO and Chairman at Usio. If you got value from this episode, please share it with other SaaS founders who need to hear this as well. And if you got 10 seconds, a quick rating or review on Apple Podcasts will help more people to find these conversations. Thank you for listening to the Remarkable SaaS podcast. If you want more insights like this, subscribe to my daily email, Espresso with Ton. It's a 2-minute shot of clarity for SaaS founders who want to create pull, not push. You can sign up, along with getting my book, at valueinspiration.com. See you in the next episode.